In the most secluded halls of the Kremlin, this missile is known as the most treasured jewel of the former Russian Empire. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Washington, it has been dubbed Putin's wild card. Behind these nicknames lies an investment of approximately 20 trillion rubles over the past decade, though its real cost to the United States is likely much higher. However, the emergence of the avant-garde poses a serious threat, potentially rendering the American missile defense system nearly obsolete. This hypersonic glide vehicle is capable of carrying a nuclear payload ranging from 0.8 to 2 megatons. Reports suggest that during tests in December 2018, it exceeded Mach 20. President Putin, however, claims that in the dense layers of the atmosphere, this 2-ton beast reaches Mach 27, equivalent to traveling 9.2 kilometers per second. At such speeds, warning systems have almost no time to react. The avant-garde appears on radar screens just 15 to 20 seconds before impact. Witnesses describe it as an intense fireball streaking across the sky, while experts state that it moves surrounded by a plasma halo reaching temperatures of up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Some analysts argue that even without its nuclear warhead, its sheer kinetic energy alone would be enough to annihilate any target in its path. Possessing a weapon of this caliber significantly expands destructive capabilities, creating a perilous situation for any adversary. During early test flights in 2018, then President Trump reportedly raised concerns, warning that Russia was pushing the limits of U.S. defensive capabilities. With a velocity of 9.2 kilometers per second, this hypersonic missile appears virtually untouchable, not just for American interception systems, but also for those of other military powers such as China and even Russia itself. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, no country has yet developed a missile shield capable of neutralizing a projectile traveling at such extreme speeds. The avant-garde is part of a broader Russian hypersonic missile family, which includes the air-launched Kinzhal and the Zircon, designed for naval platforms. Both have been deployed in attacks, including strikes on Ukraine's power grid, reaching speeds of up to Mach 10. While Ukrainian forces claim to have intercepted several of these missiles using Patriot, NASAMS, and IRIS systems, the avant-garde represents a far greater threat. Skepticism exists regarding the feasibility of such fast-moving missiles. Yet both China and the US are advancing their own hypersonic glide vehicle programs. However, Russia was the first to openly introduce and deploy these weapons, which explains why they are such a significant challenge for the Pentagon. In the remote Orenburg region, deep within an almost inaccessible landscape, lies the mysterious 13th Missile Division. Hidden across vast plains and strategically spaced apart to avoid attacks, avant-garde systems are operated from this location. Reports suggest that each underground silo, reaching depths of nearly 72 meters, is sealed by an armored door weighing around 120 tons, designed to withstand direct hits from high-yield bombs. Inside, an intercontinental launcher awaits its command, ready to propel the avant-garde skyward when the time comes. Each launch silo contains a console featuring the enigmatic red button. Operators undergo daily training, with approximately 6,000 Russian officers participating in exercises for a single critical task: pressing the button that triggers the missile's ignition. At that moment, a power accumulator opens the massive hatch, and the rocket ascends before igniting its primary engine to propel the avant-garde into the sky. Meanwhile, in U.S. security offices, alarms blare as soon as a missile launch is detected from any remote part of the globe. The space-based SPIRS satellites, designed to track infrared emissions in the atmosphere, have only 180 seconds to identify an intercontinental missile launch. If for any reason these electronic eyes fail, responsibility shifts entirely to ground-based tracking systems. This is where the Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, GMD, system comes into play, the cornerstone of America's missile defense network. At its core are ground-based interceptors, GBIs, designed to neutralize threats worldwide, even in low Earth orbit. However, their effectiveness hinges on how quickly a threat is detected, making every second critical in this race against time. To enhance response capabilities, the GMD system is supported by 3 pave-pause radar stations, large fixed antennas capable of tracking ballistic missiles in the early stages of flight. Of these installations, the U.S. Space Force Base in Clear, Alaska, is the most strategically vital, as it monitors the polar route connecting Russia and North America, the shortest trajectory for a potential attack. The other 2 stations oversee the eastern and western approaches to the U.S. However, no matter how powerful they are, the pave-pause radars do not cover the entire globe. Their detection range is limited to around 2,100 kilometers, necessitating additional surveillance from the SBX radar, a floating platform mounted on a semi-submersible Norwegian-designed vessel. This system can track objects up to 4,900 kilometers away and provide in-flight guidance to GBIs. Interestingly, the SBX is so massive that when moving, it consumes fuel equivalent to that of a medium-sized oil tanker. Yet, even with the combined efforts of space-based satellites, ground radars, and maritime platforms, there is no guarantee of foolproof protection. A missile launched at an unusual angle or with an unexpected trajectory shift could evade SBX detection and bypass the initial alert phase. Now you understand why avant-garde missiles are stationed in Orenburg. This location is deep within Russia's borders, making it harder for U.S. missile defense radars to detect a launch. But the Russians have implemented another strategy that makes interception even more difficult. The avant-garde's guided warhead can be delivered by either the Soviet-era SS-19 Stiletto, capable of carrying a heavy payload, or the modern Russian RS-28 Sarmat, also known as Satan II. The Sarmat missile, by the way, can carry up to 5 avant-garde warheads, each weighing 2 tons. Due to the substantial amount of fuel needed to overcome air resistance, intercontinental missiles are typically launched vertically to quickly escape the dense layers of the atmosphere. In a real combat scenario, Russian engineers take every measure to ensure that the carrier rocket remains undetected by satellites and radars, even for a few critical seconds. Why is that brief window so crucial? Because just 125 seconds after launch, the avant-garde separates from its carrier, a process that occurs much earlier than in traditional intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, with nuclear warheads. From a strategic standpoint, if U.S. defense systems detect a missile in flight quickly, they can launch interceptors before the warheads detach. However, with the avant-garde, the reaction time is drastically reduced. Additionally, it has another advantage. The Sarmat booster that carries the avant-garde can leave the atmosphere on a trajectory that avoids the North Pole, where most U.S. detection capabilities are concentrated, and instead head south. According to the Pentagon, most American anti-missile radar and satellite systems are oriented toward the Arctic, as they were designed to intercept threats from Eurasia. If the Sarmat heads in the opposite direction and its launch heat signature is not detected in time, the avant-garde could separate from the carrier and remain undetected until impact. How is this maneuver executed in practice? First, the Sarmat accelerates away from the United States at Mach 15, around 5.1 kilometers per second. Just over 2 minutes later, at the 125-second mark, the avant-garde detaches and becomes fully independent. Despite lacking its own propulsion system, its aerodynamic design allows it to glide up to 6,000 additional kilometers. At this stage, gravity propels it even faster. Pave-pause and SBX radars may barely register its presence, but by then, the avant-garde has already begun unpredictable movements, climbing, diving, and making sharp turns that defy standard ballistic trajectories. The U.S. missile defense system, designed to intercept targets with relatively fixed flight paths, is not equipped to handle an object traveling at 9.17 kilometers per second. Intercepting such a target would require multiple interceptors to take down just one avant-garde. Theoretically, the THAAD system could be used, but with a top speed of Mach 8, it is at a clear disadvantage. A successful interception would require firing a salvo of missiles within mere seconds, and even then, success is not guaranteed. If Russia were to launch multiple avant-gardes simultaneously, the likelihood of the THAAD or any other existing missile defense system stopping all of them would be nearly zero. Reports, including one from RAND Corporation, suggests that these hypersonic glide vehicles put the U.S. at a strategic disadvantage. The only viable response? Expanding radar networks and missile launchers. An endeavor that would require astronomical investments and years of development.